Welcome back to Revenue Remix. I'm Summer Paletti, Fractional Chief Revenue Officer of Rise of Us and your host. Today, I am joined by Morris Reichman, who's sitting in Lakewood, Jersey. He is the founder of Payro, a payroll funding company, and Greg Javins, who's sitting in a chair. He is the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Payro, and they are going to join us and talk about the founder journey and what they're doing to grow their company and help the payroll industry at large.
Welcome back to Revenue Remix, a podcast from Rise of Us, where we take a fresh spin on driving revenue growth, hosted by Summer Paletti, a fractional CRO who works with business owners and leaders who feel held back by outdated systems. This podcast explores how adaptable, unified frameworks can transform static processes, equipping teams to meet evolving customer needs and drive resilient, lasting growth. Each episode features insights from Summer and her guests, offering practical strategies to sidestep common pitfalls and build real revenue momentum. It's time to remix the way we think about growth. Enjoy the show.
So Morris, I'm going to start with you. Take us back to the beginning. What problem did you see in the market that led you to create Payro?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me on there. Really my pleasure. Now, back to the problem. You know, when you're, as an outsider, end up in a place where you see the obvious solution that no insider sees simply because they're an insider? Well, that's where I found myself in 2019. Now, I was, at the time, in the Javits Center at a conference in New York City, and at the time I was working at a merchant cash advance company, also giving short-term loans for businesses. And I was walking the floor, and I met a local payroll company. The first time I knew that existed, because all I knew about until then was ADP and paychecks. I didn't know there was something else. And I meet this fellow, and he's explaining to me exactly what he does, payroll. It sounds like so boring, but I'm listening to him. But he's boasting that he has about 1,000 customers. So my natural naive reaction was, since I'm in the lending space, I'm sure somebody needs a loan, right? So can, maybe one of your customers need a loan, refer them to me, I'll pay you a commission. Now let's make something happen. And he lit up. He's like, please, let's do something. And he goes on to tell me this story, how this happens frequently, that a customer of his for 10 years, I would call him up and say, it's Wednesday, and he needs to submit payroll, and his bank will be debited the next day for $100,000, and he doesn't have the money. All right, he's waiting on a check to clear. So he calls up the owner of the payroll bureau and tells him, "Can you process my payroll? I'll pay you back on Friday." And the guy's like, "I can't tell him no because I know it jeopardizes business. He's my customer for 10 years. I can't tell him I don't trust him, and so I do it, but then I can't sleep at night. 2 days till that money comes back in." So, of course, if you want to fund them, please, be my guest, fund them all, right? And that's where I discovered, hey, you know what? Okay, so let's do this, right? Let me fund them all. Just tell me who they are. So, and that fellow wasn't really, he didn't have the bandwidth to, add another thing into his business. He was very, running a shop himself, very much work to the bone type of guy. So, the next step was I went onto LinkedIn, the place where I love hanging out, and I started searching payroll. And all of a sudden, I found out there's many local payroll companies. I never knew that existed. And there's so many of them. And I started sending direct messages, but I believe that my messages at that point probably sounded so naive because I didn't even know the terminology. If you're not doing payroll, who knows about payroll? But I sent out hundreds of messages, hundreds. And guess what? I didn't get a single no. All I got was crickets, right? Nothing, no response. Until one payroll company responded to me, to my idea of funding payrolls. And he's like, hey, I was always thinking about something like it. I didn't know how to go about it. Thanks for reaching out. Let's meet. That's where it began. So we met and we agreed to do something. And that was the first pilot program with that particular company. At first, we launched a typical loan product. We saw interest, but it didn't convert. So we delved into the problems of it. And slowly over time, we had a very successful gig just with that particular company. And after that, we realized, we got to make a business out of this.
There you go. So did it start out as something and then you spun it off? Because you were in lending, so were you looking for a payroll company to lend, and then you kind of got proof of concept, and then
Yeah,
spun
well,
Payro off as a separate company?
exactly. This was while I was at that lending company where we did this
Mm-hmm.
particular concept. But the first thing we did was, a loan was nothing unique. It was actually a merchant cash advance. So we were relying on this payroll company to introduce us to his clients that if you need money, here's a company that can give you money. But we're nothing special. There's another million companies like that out there. And again, there was interest. But then eventually we realized that we can't just be another lender unique to the payroll pain points. We weren't converting business. People were interested, but they would disappear the next day. And here was the key. And this is the key how our product came about. People would say, "Hey, I'm interested," and then 2 days later, "I'm not interested anymore." Like, what happened? And the answer is, if you couldn't solve my problem in 24 to 48 hours, you're irrelevant. I'm processing payroll today. I know now my money's short. Now, it's not going to help me. You come around in 2 days and ask me for another P&L. I need answers today. So we understood that payroll is oftentimes processed last minute. Businesses are managing the cash flow also, up to the last minute. And in order to help them, when they need a solution that can come in the last minute and save them. Like, all right, payroll needs to be submitted. I don't have the cash. Now what? Let's click on the red button and let's get some little infusion. So we'll cover it. And in order to accommodate that, we came up with the concept of approving businesses ahead of time for the safety net. Apply ahead of time, get approved ahead of time, and then funds will be available immediately if you need a payroll. And that proved to be successful. Of course, with tweaks and learning exactly the nuances, what's holding people back and what makes it successful until it was really successful. But once again, it was with this particular company, so then more research was needed before we actually launched it.
I get it. And you kind of answered the question that I had. Financing, even in the payroll space, isn't a totally unique situation. But it sounds like, if I can distill the answer to my question, your unique approach is that you learned fundamentally what the payroll industry needs and how and when, and you're able to tailor a funding specific to the needs of payroll companies.
Yeah, see, that's the big question. Always, anyone I'll speak to, let's say another lender, so you're lending money, what makes you unique, right? And like you said, it's the only loan that's specific for payroll. By being specific for payroll, we are guaranteeing the business owner that payroll could be covered. Unlike any other loan, if you took a loan today because you needed to do something and you got a $500,000 line of credit and you maxed it out, what ends up happening is now you got $500,000 sitting in your balance sheet until who knows when, until your business is making that much money to pay it off. It's not available anymore. You used it, whatever you did with it. Our loan was designed to be available for payroll and only short term, so it gets paid back immediately. So payroll's always covered.
Been a small business owner before. I know what it feels like when payroll's coming and you're like, okay, who can buy my kidney?
Yeah,
I
right.
get it. Okay, so let's see. Once you had kind of the idea and that one client, what was the toughest part of founding Payro and growing it bigger, like coming to market really with your unique idea?
Yeah, I remember those days. So let me take you back there. What's important to know is that before I launched the company, I didn't do so just out of, just, hey, great idea, let's do it. I spoke to some people, some experts, marketing, and this and that. And like everyone said, you got to do some market research. So we went straight to Google, and the results came up right away. I searched, cash flow, small business, payroll. I just put a few keywords. Things are popping up. It didn't take long to come across a survey done by QuickBooks just a few months earlier. And that survey said that of 3,000 business owners they surveyed, 61% said they lose sleep worrying about payroll. Like, wow, that is so perfect. What I was looking for. It's worrying about payroll. And then I came across another stat, and this was from, I think, the Department of Labor, thing that 82% of small businesses that shut their doors is because of cash flow reasons. You know, I had the research. Cash flow is nothing new, and worrying about payroll isn't new either. But this solution didn't exist, so we're going for it. And I thought it'd be a no-brainer. I thought, of course, everybody will like just welcome this idea with open arms. And then it turns out to be that nobody likes changing status quo. That was the biggest challenge. You're coming around to a place, you're meeting a payroll bureau. I went to the first conference, I tell them what I'm doing, and they was looking at me like, this wasn't a problem yesterday, don't make it a problem today. Our customers never asked us for funding. They don't need this. Stop making me crazy. Don't make don't convince me of more things to sell. Don't tell me I have more problems that I'm not aware of. So really, challenging status quo was the biggest hurdle to get over. And I remember
because
early
that's
on
what.
when we were struggling a bit. One more thing, and I went to speak to some other marketing consultant, and he was like, you know what? Those guys who don't get it, don't waste your time with them. They'll come around when people are doing it already. Just make sure you talk to those guys. They're innovative, they're new, maybe younger. Stick to those.
That's clever advice. Okay. And then I feel like that's almost a perfect segue into talking about Greg and what Greg does. So, Greg, for anybody who doesn't know him, the guy who knows everybody. And when we're talking about someone who maybe came into this space not knowing that small payroll bureaus exist, Greg happens to know 90% of them, I think. So I'm seeing where this go-to-market strategy is coming together. So then, Greg, you are charged with going to the service bureau and convincing them that they don't need this thing, that they need this thing that they don't think that they need, right?
Right.
So, first of all, how long have you been with Payro, Greg?
A little over a year and a half. Yeah.
So you have enough time to get your feet wet and maybe have adapted your strategies a little bit. So what's your general strategy to help Payro grow, and how has it evolved over the last 18 months?
Sure. So initially coming in, as you said, I know a lot of service bureaus. So I was able to take that trusted advisor role that I gained over the past 20 years of working with many of the service bureaus and go to them as once again, that trusted advisor and say, hey, from running a service bureau myself and from running one with 60,000 clients, I know this problem exists. So, you should offer this to your clients. And with that trust came, the willingness for them to market it out to their clients and allowed us to experience the growth that we've experienced in the past year.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
you like Morris was doing, you answered my next question sort of. So trust is critical. Morris mentioned it. Status quo is a big thing. I find, I've worked in payroll for over 20 years as well. Status quo is always a thing in every industry, but it seems like when it's financial services and it's other people's money and it's regulated, status quo is a much bigger deal. It seems risky to do a new thing. So how do you build the trust right away and kind of, I guess, convince people that they need the thing? Because I understand Morris's concept. It's get pre-approved for the thing you don't need yet, because you're going to need it someday. So how do you convince people that they should change when they think that, like, hey, we're fine, we don't need this?
Well, Morris did a great job of finding the early adopters. He found them, and he found the right ones, right? He found the ones that other service bureaus trust. As you know, some of us are a very tight knit group. It's 23,000 payroll providers in the U.S. plus, but yet it's still a pretty tight knit group as far as people talking. And Morris found the right ones that had the great voice. So he actually made my job really easy because I was able to come in and say, oh, well, this person adopted us and this person's adopted us. And it kind of instantly built that credibility as I was able to have those conversations.
Well, I'd like to add to that. Trust builds on itself. So when Greg came in and brought along the trusted person who many in the industry knew already, right? And then he would have a conversation with somebody, and he would just, hey, and Greg would send me a message, hey, Morris, I got this guy on the phone. I'm like, really? I talked to him 3 years ago. You ignored me, right? Or he told me, no, this is happening again and again, right? So it was a combination of a trusting person and then the trust that builds up with No, one after the other.
Yeah, no, that's an important distinction. Thank you, Morris. And you're right, Greg. I mean, it's social proof. Like I said, I have the heart of a marketer. Somebody else did this and they know what they're doing. It adds a lot of credibility to what you do.
Seeing is believing.
So even with that, you're going to find common objections or misconceptions aside from we're fine, we don't need something else to sell to our clients. What are your most common objections beyond that, and how do you overcome them so that people aren't coming to you when it's an emergency and it's too late to do something?
Yeah, I mean, the most common objection that we get is, my clients don't need you. They're all great clients. They're all never had a problem making their payroll. They've always been great. And when I talk to them, and I'm able to share stories of other service bureaus who had that same objection, but then all of a sudden they had a client that called them and said, I'm not going to be able to make payroll this payroll, and they're trying to rush them through us really quick for us to get them approved. Well, the problem with that is when someone calls and tries to get in right away, that person's already exhausted all their other options. So that person has already went and dove into their home equity line of credit. That business owner, they've done that. They've even worse, tapped into their 401ks or other things like that, where they've exhausted everything else because they didn't know we existed. They didn't, their only other options that they saw were high interest products or things that carried longer terms, whether that would essentially hurt their business or even put them out of business. And they didn't know a short-term lending solution existed just to get them through cash flow difficulties. So we're able to share those stories, and oftentimes I say, survey your clients, ask them, how many of you have ever needed just a few, or wished you even had just a few more days to fund your payroll? And the results are overwhelming. There's not many small business owners that would tell you that I instantly had gold in my hand. I never worried about making payroll. There's always the trials and tribulations as you build a business, and with that comes the need for funding. And as banks set their standards higher and higher, it's hard for a small business to get like an SBA loan or a true line of credit at the bank. So as those standards go higher, the need for a company like Payroll continues to grow.
You said a lot in there, and it kind of made me think, because I've had those situations where a client missed payroll, and I think the service bureau is the last to know,
Right.
because you don't want to tell your vendor that you're short on cash, because then they're going to start freaking out.
They're going to instantly say you're now a direct wire client.
Sleep.
Yeah.
They're losing sleep because they're worrying about it and they're internalizing it, right?
Right.
Exactly.
But what we see is when clients come to us, the payroll bureaus have no idea what all loans that these other businesses have taken just to survive and just to continue to make payroll. I think another common misconception that's out there about payroll is that clients have to be desperate for us. In fact, it's nothing further from the truth. The businesses that we like to approve and that we like to work with are thriving, healthy businesses that from time to time have a cash flow shortage. We work with many, many thriving, healthy businesses, and it's just a matter of maybe 2 or 3 times a month. Our average client only borrows from us 3 times a year. And I think that speaks volume to our clientele that they are very healthy businesses, but once again, need help every now and then.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, you don't want a loan to somebody who's not going to be able to pay you back in 2 days. You have to believe that there is a client who's late on their bill and the money will come. Okay, right. That makes sense. I appreciate that distinction. Let's see. Okay, so it's Morris's turn now. So Morris, as Payro has grown, what have been the biggest operational or strategic challenges that you as a founder have faced, and how have you tackled them?
Well, so you're asking about founder challenges. So you don't want to know exactly, when the system broke down, what we did. So, thinking about it today, what I would say today, which I don't think I realized at the time, but now, given where the business is, I can say the biggest challenge was probably like 2.5, 3 years into the business. When after we started and we had It was only me. So I was the only guy on payroll when we started, right? I was the salesperson, the funder, the accountant. I was everything in the company, right? So the company was making money, right? So we were like, oh, it was so much fun. Then I just started growing, and the resources we needed started growing along, and sales didn't keep up as quick as that was going. We started burning money. 2.5, 3 years into the business, we were not in a good place. Sales was not picking up quick enough. As a matter of fact, it was declining. It was slowing down. All the low-hanging fruit was sort of exhausted, and it was slowing down. Expenses were going up, and it was burning cash. And I was being getting the question all the time, Morris, how long is this going to go on for? When are you stopping? What's your game plan? Facing all those objections of people who are either, again, the source of funding behind the business or just close people, being alone on the water because I was convinced it's going to work out. And I remember so many times telling them, just wait, just some patience. I'm doing what we got to do. It's going to turn around. That was probably the hardest, most stressful time to get over. But we did, and we proved them all wrong.
Good. I love to hear it. That's a fairly typical founder story. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I feel like nobody wants to share that until they're on the other side of it.
Exactly.
So then, Greg, from the sales side, what has changed the most as you've been there and have grown? Like, I'm kind of looking for what worked a year and a half ago that no longer works today.
So a year and a half ago, it was picking up the phone, talking to friends that I had known in the industry for a long time, and having the conversations and signing bureaus up left and right, and getting them to promote us and educate their clients on what we do. But as those began to pile up, of course, and as quarters went by, well, now I'm faced with, I have all these partners that I'm trying to nurture and take care of their clients and get on phone calls with their clients. And I just didn't have time to hunt, right? I didn't have time to go out and find new partners that wanted to partner with us. And so as we've evolved, we've actually just added another resource and continue to grow on the sales side and like a strategic account executive, someone else that's been in the business and been in the industry almost as long as I have and knows a lot of the people that we're already talking to, so the conversations become easy. And so now it's allowed me to shift back off of the account side and worrying about all of our current partners. It's allowed me to shift back over to going out searching for those net new partners that want to come on board. And so as Morris keeps investing in the business, we're allowed to continue to grow at that accelerated rate. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, that makes sense. So it sounds like you sign a partner, but then you probably need to continue to nurture and maybe educate that partner and stay top of mind so that partner continues to enroll their clients or refer you to their clients.
Absolutely. So, we offer kind of two different types of partnerships, and the payroll bureaus are truly the key to our success. So, making sure the partners stay educated, their salespeople, their payroll processors know what to listen for on the phone to a customer that might be struggling a little bit. That's always the key. So we like to do quarterly phone calls with every one of our partners, which we're like over 350 payroll partners now, which is just growing and getting massive. And then, of course, you add on top of that, getting them to educate their customers. So not only are we trying to educate them as a company, we're also having to give them the tools and the marketing material and emails to send out to their clients to continue to educate. Because our product, of course, isn't one that everyone just instantly says, oh, this is exactly what we're going to need 6 months from now. A lot of it's situational. So, and it's hey, you know what? I can see maybe 4 or 5 payrolls from now, looking at our sales and kind of the trajectory of our company, we might need some funds. So let's go ahead and get signed up for this product. But we've been educating them to get signed up in advance. So once again, timing is everything.
I get it. I'm starting to see the picture. So when your slow periods are as a business owner, and that, okay, instead of pulling more out of my 401k to get through this, I'm going to tap into this other resource. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Exactly. So really, you're basically playing the long game a lot.
Yes, a lot.
A lot. Okay. So let's see. So Morris, how do you see the role of sales evolving as Payro continues to expand? Because, Greg said you've added another resource so that he can concentrate on hunting. Do you have any visions of where the company might go sales-wise?
Summer Paletti of Rise of Us helps her clients transform by building adaptable, customer-focused sales systems that replace outdated models. With these new frameworks, their teams can respond quickly to evolving customer needs, reduce friction, and work as one cohesive unit. This shift equips them with the tools to drive consistent growth, lowering churn, and creating lasting customer relationships. As a result, they achieve sustainable revenue growth that positions them ahead of competitors and prepared for future challenges. Together, you and Summer will create a foundation that not only meets today's demands, but supports long-term success.
Well, to an extent, as much as it changes, it stays the same. And we remain true to our product. So, when a while ago we would hunt down, the low-hanging fruit, the smaller bureau. Now we're just engaging with larger companies. So once again, as some companies get over the objections, larger ones that have other things they're busy with, we still face the same objections. The objections change a bit. It's not so much anymore about we don't understand your product. It's more about we don't have the bandwidth to implement it, or we have many other more important things. So when larger companies look for much more value, they always say, okay, we can do X, Y, Z this year, but we don't necessarily know yet if Payroll Finances provides enough upside to us, or if the need is large enough to invest resources to make something out of it. So that's how the challenges change a bit. But our strategy is the same. We know businesses need us, and it's a matter of time so we're just staying true to our concept, true to our product, true to our name and our reputation, and just staying consistent at it.
Strategy. All right, Greg, you're up to bat again. So Payro do you have direct sales and partner growth? Is it all partner?
I would say it's mostly partner driven. We do have a direct side. We do hunt direct, throughout the year. A lot of it though is through SEO and our website and LinkedIn outreach and just kind of marketing in general. So a lot of people do find us. If you go out and search, that you need funding for payroll, you're going to see us. And we're going to be one of the ones that you click on. So SEO is big for us, and we do see a lot of direct.
Yeah, so most direct is really inbound, is what Greg is saying.
That's good. You're doing something right. Direct is sometimes a challenge. But, if I think about direct and getting some inbound traffic, you've done a good job differentiating and branding so that when somebody Googles, you're up near the top, if not at the top of that list.
That's right.
Boy, so I have all sorts of questions about AI search that we do not have time for today. But what I will say is, from what I see, as long as you continue to talk to your direct customer through your content marketing, AI search still finds you. Okay, so Morris, let's look back. You're a founder. You got over some of the hurdles. You're successful, you're growing your business. There's always somebody coming up behind you. If there was a young founder or not young necessarily, but early stage, or somebody who's considering founding a business, what would you tell them? Do you have a piece of wisdom?
The piece of wisdom always changes. Every day I think it's something else which is important to have known. There's so many things. So if you want to know that the one piece of wisdom which is true throughout, in many areas, to me, and was the most important thing for me, was don't save on mentors. A mentor is the most important thing. Invest in yourself more than you invest in your company. So from the second year I started the business, I had a business consultant. He was the only person who really kept me going when everyone else was saying, just shut this down already, right? We talked, we had a plan, we were strategic about it. So having a mentor, like I always say, why learn from your own mistakes if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes? Having a mentor is, I think, was the most invaluable thing to me. And I advise anybody.
Why learn the hard way, right?
I mean, it's got to be the hard way anyway. We might as well get a little, walk around the way.
Boy, all right, Greg. So it's your turn to sprinkle some advice. What has been critical to your sales-related success in a tough industry? I'll put that there.
It's all, and I think it's no matter what you're selling. It's all about having a plan, sticking to the plan and executing. Um, you know, so you set your goals, you say, hey, here's where we want to be as a company. You back into that, you know, through X number of, whether you read it down elementary, X number of calls equals X number of appointments equals X number of closed deals, right? And that's the way you do it. Whether it be emails, LinkedIn outreaches, SEO searches, whatever it may be, you have to have your goal. You have to put a plan in place to achieve that goal. And I mean, a detailed weekly plan that you have, and you need to accomplish at a bare minimum that weekly plan, if not more. So it's all about having the plan, sticking to it, and holding yourself accountable.
I'm just going to give you a round of applause as a sales coach. Yes, that right there.
Well, I can tell you, Greg isn't just preaching, he's practicing. I know he made his calendar for the entire year, every week what he's going to be doing, right?
Yeah, it's already done for the entire year. It's not only done for me, it's also done for our account executive. It's the entire year's mapped out. And even when we're going to conferences, what we need to accomplish at those conferences, and afterwards what we should be doing as far as follow-ups and everything else. So the whole year is mapped out. LinkedIn posts are mapped out a quarter in advance. So I mean everything's done in the beginning of a quarter to set it up for success.
It's a critical part of sales. It's not the most fun part of sales, but it is critical because at the end of a sales day, you're exhausted. You've made a ton of calls, but did you do the things that you needed to do?
Right.
If you're not tracking it and planning it, it's just a bunch of random sales related stuff, right?
That's
Good.
right. Morris does a great job of making sure that in the beginning of the week that we are all looking at our plan and that we all know what we have to do. And by Thursday, he's throwing out those reminders to us. Hey, did you accomplish what you were set out to accomplish this week according to your plan? And when we meet on Friday, we all share our plans with one another, and we hold each other accountable.
Nice. That's a good foundation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're still in the beginning of 2025. What is something exciting that the LinkedIn universe should look out for, Morris? What's Payro going to do this year?
We've got some really exciting things coming, really game-changing. Too early to say. We can just drop a little thing. So as we've been growing our network and client base, and when we set in 2022, we set our goal to be have the technology and the ability to integrate with payroll companies. From doing funding and communicating via email, we invested in building our software, our proprietary software, the ability to integrate. And now, after 2 hard years and Greg being here the majority of those 2 years, knocking on wood and getting our name out there and breaking through a lot of the barriers, we're already having conversations now with very large bureaus to integrate our product, our lending product, in product. And we got some very interested parties. And of course, we can't say who they are, but that's going to be a humongous game changer for the entire industry. Businesses will be able to log in online to the payroll system, submit payroll, and choose how to fund it. So we are very, very excited, looking forward to that. And that's really going to blow things up to the next level.
Okay, that is really cool because I feel like it takes the shame out of it. The business owner has complete control and they don't have to tell their vendor that they're having cash flow problems, right? They can just choose, okay, I need a loan this week. Is it kind of like that?
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly.
That is cool. Okay, Greg, it sounds like you had something to add.
Well, that's okay. When we do get applications, this is something that you're getting before everyone, but I know this probably podcast won't come out for at least a few days. So I can share something with you tomorrow. A press release is going to hit the wire that we have completed an integration with Lendio. Lendio is one of the nation's largest, online brokerages that has over 200 lenders connected to it. So when we have to decline a business for a loan, we don't want to just stop there. We want to continue to help them. We want to help them solve their problem now, because in that way, if they get back on track at some point, we may be able to approve them, right? And so we don't just want to stop at having to decline a business just because maybe it's in a rough patch right now. We want to help them be a healthy, thriving business. So with that integration, we're able to automatically share that data with Lendio, and they're able to return, here's, we have some interested parties to lend you money, and here's what some of those would look like. And then they're able to just move on from our landing page onto those other lenders. So it's really neat.
That's a cool integration. And yes, it won't come out for a while, so we're good.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you to just understand how we look at it. Until now, it would be we would tell somebody, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not qualified," which was quite a bad, the bad report. Instead, going forward, we can say you don't qualify for a payroll finance loan, but you do qualify for something else, which is something different completely.
From an outside perspective, it shows that you actually care about helping the business owner, which that's remarkable. I like to
Yeah,
hear
that's
that.
what drove things because we used to get these angry responses when somebody's like, "You decline me." Like, how dare you? I mean, how can you decline me for a loan, right? So we're sort of telling them your business is not good when they think it's great. And so to eliminate that bad vibe and the bad experience, you want to create a softer landing or a ramp or a better alternative. So we can't help you, somebody else can. But I'm not just joking about it. We're real. We got some other options for you that may be good for you.
Yeah, that's good. It's always good to give people options because otherwise you're calling their baby ugly, and we don't want to do that.
That's right.
Okay, so I feel like we've talked about work for a lot. We want to get to know you guys a little as human beings because at the end of the day, Greg knows, Morris, I believe you know as well, people buy from people and we buy from people that we like. So, Morris, I'll have you go first as the founder. What is something that you like to do in your spare time as a founder that gives you balance to your life or that brings you happiness?
Yeah, I see. As the early founder, one of the things I had to work on very hard was to make that spare time, and which I've accomplished as well lately. It comes together with the business, improving as well. And thank God, I'm very grateful, but I have a lovely family, and therefore, as a founder, I was always busy. Every minute of spare time, we're spending for the kids. If it's my 6-year-old, I taught him how to play chess recently, and every Saturday, like, "Hey, can we play chess?" He knows I don't play with him Truth and Ladders. I only play with him games that you use the brain. Like, you gotta bring me games that makes you think. Really, spending time with the kids. I got a 6-year-old, I got a teenager. They all need different things, and that's how we spend our time.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I like that you're not playing the kid games. The kid games are challenging.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, Greg, what do you do to bring balance and happiness in your life?
Mostly family. My wife and I, we have 5 kids, so they keep us hopping between sports and learning to drive and running me here, running me there, sleepovers, all that kind of fun stuff. I love cooking, so I have a smoker, and I love smoking meats and all of that. My family definitely appreciates that, so they like to be on the other end of it eating. So for me, that's what I love to do, and get a little golf in every now and then.
Nice. Golf.
Greg, you like tennis, no?
I do like tennis. My oldest son, he plays. He's on the high school team, and I played back when I was in high school, and I even learned to play tennis for the parks department. So I've really enjoyed getting out playing with him recently. But I think that just goes back to family and doing whatever the kids are doing and participating in their lives.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Right.
work is important, but the family is so much more important. I love that both of you had that as your fun thing. Although I don't know about teaching to drive. I have a teenager. It's a lot of
Yeah,
memories, right?
most people would tell you I'm not really a patient person, but for some reason, I'm super patient with teaching kids to drive. I get in and just kind of let them make mistakes, and I just sit there and let them realize what they're doing, and I don't know. It's the one place where I'm a very patient person.
It's all good. I get told, "Mommy, you're scaring me too much." I'm gonna come out near you. You can teach my teen how to drive.
All right.
Oh boy. Okay, so let's wrap it up. If people want to learn more about Payro and payroll funding, Morris, where should they go?
I'm always in my office. You can always find me there. But LinkedIn, find us on LinkedIn. Send us a DM. We monitor it. We're on it. We'll always respond. So you can just look my name up or look at the company. But if you really want to get in touch with us, you can email me. It's my name, Morris, at payrollfinance.com.
Or Greg at payrollfinance.com. Or you can find a ton of information about us and what we do at www.payrollfinance.com.
Thank you. And then I imagine, if I know Greg, there's a couple of events. Are y'all going to be at events anytime this year?
We have all kinds of events that we are going to be going to. We're going to IPPA Sales and Marketing. That's coming up here in March. We're going to be at the Kronos PCW Workshop. We're going to be at the IRIS Conference, ExecuPay, Payroll Vault, Napio, iSolved. We're becoming the
HR
big
Tech,
bear.
you forgot.
We're becoming the big bear this year. We're going to be at HR Tech, which is a huge event.
That's a huge show.
It's almost 10,000 attendees, and it's a big show. And we'll also be at PASBA, so we're going to be living on a plane this year.
I was just going to say, wow. Well, HR Tech, that's a moving on up kind of conference. That's a big one. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate you guys both joining me and telling me the story of the company and why you founded it and how you help people, and then also how you grow. I'm connected with a lot of business owners, whether they admit it or not. Stats show that they worry about payroll sometimes. So I hope they reach out to you when and if they do.
That's right. You hope they reach out before they need it.
Of course. Sorry, I said that wrong.
Summer, we always tell people, and it's very true, it's easy to get money when you don't need it. It's hard to get money when you need it.
I can understand that. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me and taking the time to share your founder and your growth stories. Thank you for joining me on Revenue Remix. Remember to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel for more insights and interviews. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Summer Paletti, rhymes with spaghetti. And as I always tell my clients, when your team's strategies and goals align, growth isn't just possible, it's inevitable. I will see you folks next week.